Hey y'all, TRG here and welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll be talking about two massive storms that will impact much of the central and eastern United States, including the potential for snowfall and severe weather. Let's go right on into today's video. Let's start out here with our 500 millibar wind speeds on your GFS 12Z. We have a system that is currently exiting the United States after bringing 2 days of freezing temperatures out here in the eastern US. Before it exits, it will bring a clipper system today into overnight tonight for portions of Ontario, Michigan, as well as going into New York as we go throughout Saturday into Sunday morning. Pushing this out to Sunday afternoon and evening, we could see a severe weather threat out here in portions of eastern Texas, Louisiana, and southern Arkansas for both Sunday night as well as Monday night. We could have a few severe storms and maybe even a small tornado risk with this system as it pushes eastward throughout the deep south portion of the U.S. After that, going into Tuesday night, we'll have our first massive system. This system will bring a blast of Arctic air throughout much of the United States, with much of the eastern side of the U.S. ending up with very heavy rainfall, and we could even see a potential snowstorm on the far northwestern side of this system for areas like Ontario as well as the northeastern portions of the US. And then right after that, we'll see another large system push in from the southwest, moving up to the northeast. This is going to bring in yet another blast of cold air, and behind it, potentially a very small, if not barely even a severe weather threat for portions of Oklahoma. And then as it exits off to the north and east going into Sunday morning, we could actually see a snowstorm for portions of maybe Wisconsin, Iowa, and even into Minnesota as we go into Sunday as well as Monday next week. Looking at all of this with your GFS 12Z precipitation type now, this is going into later on this evening about 4 p.m., which should be around 2 hours after releasing this video. You'll see this clipper system I was talking about at the far top right-hand corner of your screen. Like I said, going to bring some snowfall to Michigan, Ontario, as well as portions of the Northeast. I don't think we'll see a whole lot of snowfall stick, but it's still going to be snowing, of course. And then we'll see our next, or I should say, one of our first big systems here going into Monday morning. That's going to be the system that could bring severe weather to areas like eastern Texas, Louisiana, southern Arkansas. That's going to bring rain to much of the eastern portion of the U.S. and maybe some very small snowfall to portions of the far north central United States going into Monday afternoon and evening. Before we dive on into the rest of today's video, I ask that you guys hit the like button, share this video with your family, friends, and on social media. Hit that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all if you are new, so you know when I go live or upload a video. Let's go right back on into today's video. After that, we'll have that massive blast of cold air. This is our big system, or one of our massive systems that's going to be pushing in all that cold air. You'll see all this moisture from the Gulf of Mexico gets pushed up to the north and east, and that would set the stage for a big snowstorm. But unfortunately, our cold air just doesn't push fast enough, and we could see some snowfall, yes, on the northwest side of this system, but I don't think it's going to be a winter storm or a major winter storm. I think this is going to be another missed opportunity, but either way, we're going to end up with a whole lot of rain in much of the eastern portion of the U.S. and some snowfall out there for maybe Indiana, Ohio, Ontario, and Michigan going into December 10th and 11th. Then pushing this out further to Wednesday afternoon, that system will exit off the eastern portion of the U.S., but not before putting potentially a couple inches of snowfall on the ground out here in portions of Pennsylvania and New York very early Thursday morning. And then this system will very quickly exit off to the north and east thanks to that blast of Arctic air that's going to be pushing in behind it and quickly moving this off to the north and east. Thursday morning, this will rapidly exit the country going up to Canada as well as into the Atlantic Ocean. We'll be left with that remnants of your Arctic blast just sitting there over a good chunk of the northeastern and north central side of the United States. And then you'll see it happen again. We get a high pressure that sits out here that allows for moisture to be pulled up into portions of the central plains. We get another Arctic blast that comes in behind that, and that will set the stage for yet another snowstorm potential, but this time going into portions of the north central portion of the U.S. Like I said, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin could get in on some snowfall as we go into Saturday and Sunday morning next week, with that Arctic blast pushing in behind this as well. In terms of severe weather, by the way, with this system, we may see a severe storm or two out here in Oklahoma as we go into Saturday next week, but it doesn't look like anything notable at this point. Pushing this forward into Sunday afternoon and evening, you'll see this snowstorm continues in portions of the Great Lakes. I do not think it will be a notable snowstorm, but it could drop a couple inches in portions of Minnesota and Michigan going into Sunday, pretty much all day Sunday, and then it will kind of just spin over the Great Lakes area as it loses its moisture. Same ordeal, we'll see that Arctic blast just kind of chill in most of the eastern, northeastern portion of the U.S. as we go into Tuesday next week, and then after that, we are in Fantasyland. Anything beyond that is going to change massively. Just to show you another model run, this is going to be yesterday's European model. Our 12Z is yet to render in here on Tropical Tidbits, but you'll see as we go into Sunday night and Monday, we're still looking at that potential very minimal severe weather threat out there in Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas here on the European model run. It merges with that system to the north, causing just a little bit of snowfall in the northeast, but not really much of a snowstorm in a sense going into Tuesday. And then as we push into Wednesday morning, this is our first widespread massive storm here. You'll see, like I said, mostly just rain. You don't really see a lot of snowfall here on this particular European model run as we go into Wednesday morning. We finally do get that cold blast that mixes in with some of our precipitation, allowing for more of just some flurries here going into Indiana, Ohio, maybe Kentucky, as well as Ontario, but nothing like a major snowstorm in a sense until this gets up to northeastern Quebec up there in Canada. That cold air lingers around just like the GFS has it. This potentially even shows 3 bigger storms here. If we switch back to our GFS model, the GFS has Sunday being that big storm, whereas the European model run from yesterday actually has kind of a big storm going into Saturday, and then another one directly behind that going into Sunday. So the European model run kind of tries to pull 2 big storms into the U.S. You could actually see the trough ejection right here on your European model run, negatively tilted trough here going into December 14th, pushing that out into Sunday, December 15th. You'll see that much larger trough ejection pushing through much of the United States. So European model run has a little bit of a variability here, showing potentially 3 big storms, but I think it will eventually work out here into showing more of just 2 large storms like the GFS has. One large storm around December 11th, and then another large storm around December 15th and 16th. Now looking at the officials out here at the Climate Prediction Center, they have outlined a slight risk for heavy snowfall in portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, as well as going into Michigan for the time frame of December 15th to the 17th. They've also outlined a chance of heavy precipitation out here in the Deep South that may be accompanied by a very marginal, if not less than that, risk of severe weather. Also looking at your temperature and precipitation outlooks, they do have a very large area of above average temperatures out here in much of the central United States. That doesn't mean it's going to be boiling hot in terms of like 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It just might be closer to like 40s and 50s. You can also see they have that very large area of above average precipitation, which I 100% agree with that. Then going into December 14th through the 20th, we'll see that other big system push through, which is why they have that large area of above average precip as well for much of the central U.S. And then that large area of above average temperatures does continue to push eastward. The temperatures portrayed by your GFS 12Z model run, you'll see these blasts of cool air that enter the United States. We're just going to continue to see these Arctic blasts that impact much of the U.S. But whenever that blast leaves, you'll see it warms up to literally like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, that's not that hot out there in the central portion of the U.S., but it is above average climatology-wise, which is why they issued that outlook for above average temperatures out there. Then going into December 18th, you'll see that little ridging pattern that actually does begin to form here on your GFS. We are in Fantasyland, but it does begin to form a ridging pattern where we see a high pressure over the east central portion of the U.S. That allows for warmer temperatures to push into much of the central United States and as well as around that high pressure system, which will probably keep us quite well above average for probably the December 16th through like the 20 to 21st time frame like the CPC has. Here's your European model run with the 500 millibar wind speeds from yesterday's run, pulling this on out till tomorrow evening. You'll see that trough in the deep south. That's going to cause some heavy rain showers and potentially some thunderstorms and maybe a very small, and I mean very small, tornado threat in Louisiana. Pulling this out further to the Tuesday afternoon and evening time frame, we'll see that massive trough pull into much of the United States, including a very large blast behind that, potentially bringing a very small amount of snowfall to portions of the northeastern side of the United States as we go into Wednesday and Thursday morning. Going to Thursday afternoon and evening, that trough will exit the United States as we see another trough pull into the central U.S. on Friday afternoon and evening. The GFS model run doesn't have this as potent as the European model run. The Euro model wants potentially a small snowstorm up here in North Dakota and Minnesota. I'll take you on over to the snowstorm total so you can see that. You can see that additional coat of snowfall right there within the first like 3-4 frames of Saturday morning and afternoon. It wants a couple of inches out there in Wisconsin and Minnesota, whereas the GFS model run wants snowfall in just Canada, and it barely even gets into the US. Just to briefly show you what I was talking about, here's the GFS model run for Saturday morning, and you can see the snowfall stays into Canada and the extreme north central portion of the US. Back on over to your European model run now, pulling this out into next Sunday, December 15th. That's our second massive storm system entering the U.S. That's going to be the one that could potentially cause a snowstorm for these general areas of the U.S. And then beyond that, you'll see that massive trough move through the U.S. going into Monday and Tuesday. And then after that, we go into complete fantasy land, and it's going to change a lot. So yeah, definitely going to keep an eye on it. I appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, watch the severe weather, watch the tropics and the snowfall. Goodbye.